Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dan Bishop. For those that I have not had the pleasure of meeting quite yet, I'm the new professor of military science. I've been here since the beginning of June, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be here in Johnson City at East Tennessee State University. Got here in a very interesting manner, and I think she's on her way here. She had to pick up the kids, but I handed the list of available options to my wife, Kristen, and said, "Honey, where do you want to go?" And by the grace of God, she picked ETSU. And that's how we ended up here, and it's been a great ride so far. And already I've realized what a special place this is. So if I could thank you all for being here with us today, a very special day. We've got 3 American heroes up here on the stage that we're going to induct into the Buck Battalion Hall of Fame, and so obviously a very special day for all of us, but especially for them and their families. If I could make one quick point, I'm not sure he was able to make it in here. Is Brigadier General Stahlkup in the audience? Did he make it in? Sir, if you could just stand up just very briefly. We had the pleasure of going to the College of Business and Technology Hall of Fame induction, had 2 ETSU alums, Buck Battalion alums inducted today. One was Brigadier General Stahlkup. The other, Frank Atchison, I don't believe, I think had to move down the road to Charlotte. But a quick round of applause for those 2 heroes. Did Dr. Garceau make it over here quite yet? She's on her way. Okay. Hey, I'll publicly embarrass her when she gets in, but I want to point out Dr. Garceau's support to the Military Science Department here at East Tennessee State. Interesting setup here in that we were rolled up under the College of Business and Technology, and so while I serve 2 bosses. One is Colonel Knight, my brigade commander up there at Fort Knox, Kentucky, the military side of the house, obviously, and then I also report to Dean Garceau, with ROTC falling up under a College of Business and Technology. I think of her mentally as Colonel Garceau, which makes it kind of easier for me to make sure I maintain the proper etiquette when I'm dealing with the university boss. But it's a pleasure to work for Dr. Garceau here on the university campus. Without her help, we wouldn't be here in the Millennium Center today. She helped immensely in allowing us to get this facility today and to put on this incredibly wonderful activity. So we'll thank her, and right when she walks in, we'll get her. The 3 men on stage will give much more important comments than I can give here in terms of an opening comment. But if I can make just a very few short, pointed comments on why I think in my very short time here, I think ETSU is such a special place, and why the Buck Battalion is I will stack our battalion up against any other program in the nation, anytime, any day. I know most of you have heard all of the statistics for this program. It's been on campus since 1952. We've been here for over 60 years. We have successfully commissioned over 1,400 Army officers into service. We unfortunately have lost 10 of our hosts killed in action. But the key there is that while we absolutely mourn their loss, we are absolutely proud of their service, and we will never forget them. And one thing you'll hear about our recent victory in our Ranger Challenge competition, that Ranger Challenge guide on bears the name of Eddie Reed. He was one of our fallen, and you would hear the cadets all through Fort Knox, Kentucky yelling his name, which I know would have made him and his family immensely proud. So what makes ETSU so different than any other ROTC program in the nation? And the cadets, you guys have heard this from me before, and so you'll have to forgive me. You get to hear it again. I love to compare my experience as a cadet many moons ago on the West Coast to what the cadets enjoy here at East Tennessee State. And I always tell them, hey, you probably won't appreciate it now, but give it a couple of decades. See what the rest of the world's like. And then you're going to look back on your time here in Johnson City, and you're going to realize just what a special place this is. So when I look back on my own cadet experience out west, we'll look at first facilities. The facility that my battalion was housed in was in the deepest, darkest corner of campus. It was a leftover World War II era building that I think even in the 1940s was thrown up as a temporary building, and the battalion is still there today. Wearing a uniform on campus on lab days for me as a cadet out west could be a little bit awkward, a little bit uncomfortable, and it was certainly not celebrated on that particular campus. Well, let's talk about university leadership. In my commissioning ceremony, there was not a single university official that appeared at my commissioning ceremony. And all you have to do is look around at who is here with us today, and notably President Stanton, the ETSU president, in our midst, Congressman Monroe. I mean, we've got an enormous assembly here of not only university leadership, but community leadership that has embraced this program and supports us on a day-to-day basis, and it's really a special place. One other comparison is on commencement day, I was not allowed to wear my uniform as a new second lieutenant to commencement. Our commissionees will likely commission the day before commencement, and they will proudly wear their blues with their new second lieutenant rank on their shoulders and be recognized in public for the decision they've made to serve their nation. So it's a very, very special place here at ETSU, and obviously only been here a very short time, but we have fallen in love with it in a very short period of time. And there's one indicator, I know Colonel Meisner is in the audience here, a former PMS, Scott Jeffress, the professor of military science that I replaced. These are individuals that came here, fell in love with the place, and decided to stay. So that was obviously a pretty good indicator that this area is got some magic going on. And Buck Battalion is, again, as I mentioned, I'd stack our cadets up against anyone else in the nation. So as I mentioned, this is truly a special place, and the American heroes we are here to induct this afternoon are great examples of what make this place very special, and they really help us define who we are in the Buck Battalion. Our three inductees this afternoon: Rear Admiral Anderson, Major General Harrell, and Captain Mahoney. And today we're going to start with Admiral Anderson. Sir, I don't want this to go to your head. We didn't put you first because we're admitting that the Navy is better than the Army. That's not the case. Just want to make that clear, sir. We just went in alphabetical order. Sir, Rear Admiral Frank Anderson graduated from East Tennessee State University in 1950, and soon after entered the University of Tennessee College of Dentistry. He was commissioned an ensign in 1952 in the U.S. Naval Reserve, and over the course of more than 30 years of service, served in a wide variety of assignments, both on active duty as well as in a reserve capacity. Now, initially, sir, I questioned your judgment in joining the Navy. I really did. It was difficult for me. I thought, gosh, if I had been the professor of military science, I could have figured out a way to get him in the Army. And then I looked at the dates, and I'd like to think that he graduated in 50, we showed up in 52. I like to think that I would have been able to talk you into the Army if I was back then, sir. But the more I looked at your bio, sir, and obviously all three of these gentlemen have got very impressive history, I began to recognize the brilliance of your decision when I looked at some of your duty assignments. San Diego, California, New Orleans, Louisiana, Mayport and Jacksonville, Florida, Hawaii. Those are a little bit different than much of the time I've spent in Killeen, Texas, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. So well done, sir. Well done. You did very well. You'll note a strong Marine pedigree in Admiral Anderson's bio, as he obviously was a naval officer, but the Navy's tasked to not only provide the ships to move our Marines, but also the medical expertise to care for them. And he had time serving afloat on both the USS Saratoga and the USS Nimitz. Now, Admiral, I had to practice this several times, so you'll have to bear with me. Admiral Anderson's final assignment was as the Deputy Chief of the Dental Division for Reserve Affairs Bureau of Medicine and Surgery in Washington, D.C. So I did practice that numerous times. That was a tough one to work through. Now, several highlights of his military decorations include the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Excellent Rifle Marksmanship Badge. My father-in-law is a Marine. As I walked him through this bio, he said, I would bet that his time with the Marines helped him attain that Expert Rifle Marksmanship Badge. Beyond an exceptional naval career, Admiral Anderson brought back his leadership to this community, serving on the ETSU Foundation Board, and is awarded the Alumni Award of Honor in 1979, the Distinguished Alumni of the Armed Forces in 1989, and he and his wife, Betty, continue their support as the Bronze Society contributors to the ETSU Foundation. Admiral Anderson's married to Betty J. Anderson, as I mentioned. She is an ETSU grad. They have 3 children. 2 of them graduated right here from ETSU. And sir, while we will no doubt be cheering for different teams on the Army-Navy football game day, it's truly a great honor to have you with us today, sir, and to induct you into the Buccaneer Battalion Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Dr. Nolan, Colonel Bishop, ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Rowe and Mrs. Pam Rowe and all the other distinguished guests. I appreciate all of you coming out today. You know, the Colonel was very complimentary, and I could give you a lot of reasons. If they'd had the ROTC unit here, I would have been sitting in the back row, way behind General Hyatt, and I'd probably been about an E8 or E9. Luckily, I chose the right service. But this is certainly a very proud day, a very humbling day, and I guess one that I would have to say, when the Colonel said, "You're going to be first," I said, "Okay, I know I'm the oldest of the three, and I'm the most senior man in rank, probably. But I said, you could kind of slide me down a little bit and put General Harrell on here because he's had a more distinguished military career. But I am very proud and very humble at this honor. And I would like to say, to be part of this slate, and I've been to every function since they've initiated the Wall of Fame. The first fellow they had, and I don't believe that gentleman's here today, but I know General Hyatt was inducted in, and after 45 minutes, Ron had to pull on his coat to get him to sit down. He was a great guy, but he loved to talk. Am I telling the truth, Ron? Sergeant Gentry, great guy. But, you know, when I stand here and I see the slate of honorees and to feel how lucky I am to be part of it, I really applaud General Harrell because he had a very distinguished military career and is a true American hero, and I salute you, Gabe. And then we've got Mayor, Captain Dan Mahoney, who has done everything, and I mean everything if you've lived here. He's given to the ETSU and his resources, his time, the city of Johnson City's mayor, and gee, what a great group we have, and I feel so very honored. Now, the one thing I am proud of, I had two military careers. One, I had a military career that I thoroughly enjoyed. I really did. Then I had a professional career in dentistry. And if you wonder why I was so motivated during that time, it's because I had a 4-star flag officer push me, my wife, Betty. And believe me, she was tough. And occasionally Dr. Dorman Stout would pitch in a word down, and he was tough. But really, it's been great. I love the military, the camaraderie that went with it, and I feel how fortunate that I am. Now, somebody has asked me several times, and I can tell you a lot of funny stories, but I'm allotted only 5 minutes. They said, "Why'd you join the Navy?" I said, "Well, it's pretty simple. As a kid, I grew up on a farm, and I said, I always envisioned myself being on a Navy ship on the ocean blue and traveling to all over the world. Well, man, when I went on active duty, did I get a shock. I get orders to the Marine Corps ground and aviation personnel. And that was a privilege, they said. But it's like being back on the farm. But it was wonderful. And I thoroughly enjoyed it there. Now, there's one or two things I'd like to mention. Colonel Bishop is carrying on the tremendous leadership and the discipline that has been initiated by his predecessors. I know we have Colonel Messner here today, and unfortunately Colonel Jeffers is gone, but Colonel Bishop, I applaud you, and I know you're going to do an outstanding job. You've only been here a short time, because if you look back, all of our graduates have done extremely well, and certainly we're proud of them, and I'm proud to have the opportunity. I guess you might say they had to find somebody to give this third plaque to, so they dug me up. I'm not ready for the grave yet, but I've had a great time. But thank all of you very much for coming. It's an honor that's appreciated, not deserved, but thank you all very much.
So we've got two of these made, one for each candidate here. One is already hanging up on the wall in our Hall of Fame over at Brooks, and this one's for you to take home with you.
Thank you very much, Colonel.
Thank you. We got some pictures.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Colonel.
I'm honored to introduce our next inductee, Major General Gary Harrell. General Harrell is a 1973 graduate and another exceptional product of the Buck Battalion. I'd like to share a very brief story concerning General Harrell. Having come from the Special Operations community in my last assignment, I can tell you that to say General Harrell is a legend would be an absolute understatement. About this time last year over the mountain in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, when I received word that I'd been selected for this particular position, a very, very old, crusty, but one of my mentors, old retired Command Sergeant Major named C.W. Thompson, grabbed me and said, "Dan, you just shot a note to Gary Harrell," which sort of shocked me. "I told him you were okay, as officers go, and that if you stepped in it over here and got into any trouble, that he should figure out a way to save you." Now, I wasn't quite sure how to take that initially, but it was obviously an honor to be introduced to someone with General Harrell's reputation, and you'll soon know why. Commissioned as an infantry officer, General Harrell served with the 82nd Airborne initially before volunteering and earning his Green Beret as a Special Forces officer in 1977. After a tour of Panama with 7th Special Forces Group, he returned to the 82nd, where he served in a variety of positions which included deployment to Grenada for Operation Urgent Fury. In 1984, he returned to the Special Operations Community and was selected to serve as a troop commander for Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, more commonly referred to as Delta Force. He saw action as part of Operation Just Cause in Panama, served with the Joint Special Operations Command for Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and returned as a squadron commander to Delta. Following operations in Colombia, General Harrell served as the Ground Forces Commander for Combat Operations, immortalized in the book and subsequent movie Black Hawk Down. Wounded by enemy mortar fire, he returned to the U.S., but soon afterwards returned once again to serve as the Deputy Commander and eventually served as the Commander for Delta. After a series of assignments with Central Command to include a deployment to Afghanistan and service as the Assistant Division Commander for the 10th Mountain Division during Operation Anaconda, General Harrell assumed command of Special Operations Command Central, SOCCENT, commanding the largest assembly of Special Operations forces since World War II as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Now, for those of you cadets who think your schooling will be done after your time here at ETSU and you become a lieutenant, just listen to this list of courses, and I had to cut some of them out because it would just take too long, that Major General Harrell has attended over the course of his career. The Airborne Course, Ranger Course, Military Freefall Course, Pathfinder School, Special Forces Qualification Course, the Armed Forces Staff College, and the U.S. Army War College. A short sampling of his military awards include the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Bronze Star Medal with Valor Device and 2 Oak Leaf clusters, and the Purple Heart. Following retirement, General Harrell's enjoyed life as a very successful businessman, serving as the Director General for the King Abdullah II Special Operations Training Center in Amman, Jordan, and is currently serving as the Vice President of Special Operations Programs for Cubic Defense Applications. Sir, we are very happy to hear your plans to spend more time here in the Johnson City area, and we look forward to having you visit us here at the Buck Battalion more often. I'm sure your wife, Jennifer, is happy to have you in town a little bit more often as well, sir. I knew right away that I was inheriting an awesome program when I found out that our alumni included Major General Harrell, and we're very proud to include him to the Buck Battalion Hall of Fame. Sir.
Thank you all very much. It's a real privilege and honor to be here today to receive this honor from the place where I went to school. Although I will tell you that several of my professors probably are scratching their heads or rolling over in their graves, depending on where they are. It's also a distinct honor to share the stage with Admiral Anderson and Dan Mahoney. By the way, Dan asked me to mention the fact that for all of you that are here today, there's a discount in the gun shop. And muzzleloading season opens tomorrow. Rob, you might want to leave now. I don't know. But Dr. Rowe, thanks for you being here. Colonel Bishop, family and friends, and Rob Harris, thanks for being here with your family. In case you wonder why Rob's on that list, Rob operated on me in a place called Mogadishu and a place called Fort Bragg. And I wouldn't be here without that. So I always make time for Dr. Harris. I am very excited to accept this award today but I don't do it for myself. I accept it for the non-commissioned officer corps, in particular the United States Army, but our military. Most of you have no idea what the non-commissioned officer corps means to the United States military, but I'll tell you, there's no other military in the world that does non-commissioned officers like we do. They're the backbone of the military, and they're responsible for my successes, that and the teammates I was fortunate enough to serve with in my time in service. I'd also like to thank my family and friends. You know, most of us who wear the uniform are gone for too many birthdays, too many anniversaries, and all of that. And it is a privilege and an honor to have a family that supports you as well as my family has supported me. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank my high school sweetheart for many, many years, who's put up with all of those absences and a lot more than that. You see, she's met the medevac bird 3 times, and I was the first one off the medevac bird. Now, you may think that's fairly inconsequential. I'll tell you, it's not. When you're the first person they take out for medevac, or the first person that gets off the bird when it lands, it ain't ever good. And Jen did that with me, and she's been to way too many death notifications for family members who aren't coming home, and she was always there by my side for that. And for that, honey, I love you, and thanks. Thank you all very much, and I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, and this is perfect timing, Captain Dan Mahoney is our last inductee, and it just so happens that we won the Ranger Challenge competition, and now I'm begging for donations so I can buy more ammunition for the cadets. Can't get enough from the Army, so we got to buy some on our own. Oh, by the way, who's an inductee this year? He happens to own a store, who might be able to help us out. So perfect timing. I'd like to say I planned that, sir, but I'm not that good. But our final inductee for the class of 2012, and before I start that, I think I did see Dr. Garceau. Ma'am, if you could please, if you missed my good words about you, if you could please just stand up very briefly. My boss here on the university, and again, so we can publicly acknowledge the support that she gives to military science long before I showed up. And if you go down and you make it over to Brooks and you see the refurbished cadet lounge, we're still putting the finishing touches on it, but we couldn't have done that out without Dr. Garceau, and we certainly could not have gotten the Millennium Center today without your support. And that's just 2 of them, a whole long line of things you've done for us over the course of the years, ma'am. And so I truly appreciate the support you give us. Thank you. So, I'm sorry, Captain Mahoney. Sorry for that. The final inductee for the class of 2012. Sir, if I may, you're an excellent example of how the ROTC program develops leaders who dwell not only on the battlefield, but who take the skills, the leadership skills that we teach them in the ROTC program, and who are able to apply them on the civilian side long after the time they've taken off the uniform. Captain Mahoney earned his commission through the Buck Battalion in 1966, went on to serve on active duty for a short period with the Transportation Corps stationed overseas in Thailand. Following active duty, he continued his service as a reserve officer for an additional decade. In addition to his second lieutenant bars, Captain Mahoney also emerged from ETSU with a bachelor's degree in business administration, which he has obviously put to good use with the success and expansion of his Mahoney's Outdoor Outfitters store. Much more than a successful businessman, he served in an exhaustive list of community leadership positions to include election to the Johnson City Commission, as well as serving as mayor of Johnson City in the early 1990s. He currently serves on a number of boards, and this is just a small sampling. These boards relevant to ETSU and our community to include the Mountain State Health Alliance Foundation, the Sequoia Council Boy Scouts, the Salvation Army, and the Tri-Cities Airport Commission. Remaining tied to his alma mater, Captain Mahoney served as the ETSU Alumni Association president, is a member of the ETSU Foundation, as well as a member of the College and Business and Technology Board of Advisors, and oh, by the way, also an inductee to the CBAT Hall of Fame. He and his wife, Katie, are members of the ETSU Distinguished President's Trust. Always appreciative of his development from the ROTC program, the Mahoney family continues to sponsor an annual scholarship that's given each year to a second-year cadet in the Buck Battalion. Now, speaking for the Buck Battalion cadre, we pride ourselves in developing leaders, and we are tasked first and foremost to develop Army leaders, but these skills will serve the individual and, more importantly, the nation and the local community over the course of a lifetime. And Dan Mahoney is an exceptional example of this, and so we are very, very proud to add him to the ranks of our Hall of Fame. Sir.
Thank you. When Colonel Jantras came to see me last fall and told me about this award, I said, why me? He told me the other two that were getting the award, and I said, why me? I said, you know I'm out of place in that crowd. He said, well, to tell you the truth, we've run out of generals and admirals. Give this to So, I'm honored to be given this award. Really honored. This is really good. And Frank, I've been to these before, and this is a really good crowd for the ROTC. And I'm thinking, man, the support that the ROT is getting now, it's just great. I want to thank Dr. Nolan for being here, Dr. Bach, and I don't see Dr. Bishop, but she's a big part of the ROTC program. Congressman Rowe, Colonel Bishop. I mean, this is really an honor for us to be up here and listening to this. Now, how would you like to be up here giving a speech when you've heard Admiral Anderson and what he's done? He has put more men through Annapolis Naval Academy. I can remember Jimmy Quillen saying, Admiral Anderson calls me up every week with another name. He wants to get an appointment to Annapolis. Now, that's the truth. He's putting more men through Annapolis, I think, than anybody. Just a long-standing invitation up there for him to come by. And then how would you like to be up here with the commander of the Delta Force? I mean, we've all heard about the Delta Force, and this is the man right here, coming right here from Johnson City. I'm just honored to be up here. I grew up in Johnson City, came up through the high school, Science Hill here, went to ROTC. 4 years in ROTC at Science Hill, and then I came to ETSU. And like I think was said earlier, just 2 years mandatory ROTC back then in the 60s. And I can remember where the mini dome is right now, that was the football field. It was kind of down in a hole. And when everybody from the university would walk around that, look down in there, they'd see the brigade. I think there was about 4 battalions, and they were full. I mean, 200 in a company or more. But I mean, that whole field was nothing but military uniforms. First 2 years was mandatory, and then the second 2, you went on into the advanced. But I mean, back then, military was king in the high school and in the university. And I'm glad to see it's coming back. I don't think it was announced. It may have been. It was announced in our business meeting about the Eddie Reed Ranger School here and the advancements that they're doing, and they're in national honors right now. They're in the top 8 in the country. That's going up against the big schools for activities that they're involved in, and this is great for ETSU. I married my wife right here in Johnson City from ETSU, met her at the Wesley Center here on campus, the Methodist Center, and married her. We had a son, Sean. who came to ETSU and graduated in business, his wife, Amy, from Abingdon, who came to ETSU and graduated here, and my two granddaughters, Madison and Morgan. Would you please stand? I know you don't want to, but thank you. Would you all please stand? I wouldn't be where I am at the store if it wasn't for my son. You know, how many families have the opportunity to have three in a business? You know, my dad started it, and then I came in. Now my son's taking it too right now. So it's really been good, and I've enjoying it. And how do you think I get to do all these things in Johnson City unless I've got a family like that behind me that's pushing and taking care of business? Well, I enjoy that. When I came to the university, that was the draft days. Everybody wanted to get into the ROTC Corps and become an officer because nobody wanted to go to Vietnam as a private. Well, I came in, I became an officer and went to Fort Eustis Transportation Corps, then went to the 101st Airborne in Fort Campbell for about 6 months, and then I was shipped out to Thailand as a captain, not a captain, but as a first lieutenant, brand new, right out of the ranks, right out of school, went right into Thailand, Sahib, Thailand. And I remember that the captain that I was replacing over there, we were walking through Sahib, Thailand. No, it was in Karat, just getting in there. And there was 4 Buddhist monks walking down the road toward us. And he looked at me and he says, one of them's got grenades under their robe. And I said, how do you know that? He says, you'll find out real fast. But anyway, I'll always remember some of those things and some of the things that we did. And I spent a year in Thailand, not a long military career, but it was long enough to teach me the Army discipline. And you cadets back there, that Army discipline has meant more to me in my lifetime than anything else I've done. It's put me through civilian political circles. Congressman Rowe is an example of the political circles here in Johnson City and where it's gone to, becoming the figure that he is in Washington. But anyway, it's done well for me. And I remember when I came back from Southeast Asia, nobody cared. Nobody said thank you. It was just, you know, you came back and you got into civilian life and everything was just status quo. And then 9/11 came about. And since then, the military, you can't go to any meetings anywhere or any social functions without somebody saying, I don't want everybody that's been a military person, past and present, to stand up, and we're going to honor you. This happens everywhere now, and I'm thinking, you know, that's the difference. Now the military is looked upon, and they're really relegated back to the top of the heap where they ought to be, because that's what keeps this country strong. You cadets back there, you're in for a lifetime of real enjoyment. And what you learn in the military is going to take you out into life, into areas that you may get into politics, you may get into business, you may stay in the military, you may do a lot of things, but you're going to look back years from now and you're going to say, that military experience taught me a lot. And I am very glad I got into it at that time. I want to thank, I see General Hyatt here. You know, General Hyatt, did you know that he dug my foxhole when I was in Scabbard and Blade here at ETSU? Now, isn't that good? I can remember all the times at ETSU back then when we went to the Optimus camp with the Scabbard and Blade, and we had to go through an awfully lot of training to become a Scabbard and Blade members. I don't know what you have to do today, but I'm sure the initiation is pretty good and it's well worth it. But anyway, I want to thank the university. It's an honor to come out here and do things for the university. Everybody here in the audience, the more you do for the town, the more you do for this university, the more you're going to feel like you're involved in it, and the more you're going to feel proud of it. It's ETSU pride, and that goes to the military and to the university, and it'll carry right on with you through life. Be proud of what we've got going. Be proud of the military, and I congratulate and salute all of you in the cadet ranks back there. Thank you.
So 3 very worthy inductees we're proud to have. Gentlemen, with your permission, we're going to do a few additional things. It's very rare that we get such an incredible group. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our cadre and cadet chain of command for putting this together, with a special thanks to Angela, who's hiding over here in the corner. Angela here's my executive assistant, and she keeps me out of trouble each and every day. I swear if she didn't show up to work, the world would stop spinning on its axis, at least in the military science side of the house. And she probably threw this together when she was asleep. She's just that good. So thank you very much for putting this together for us today, and for the cadets to put such a good show up outside. I appreciate it. Okay, he doesn't know this is coming back there. In the back row, Second Lieutenant Fowler, if you could please stand up, please. And Christy, you can stand up along with him since you came along. That's Christy's, Jeff Fowler's girlfriend. This is Jeff's last day with us here in the Buck Battalion. And the reason I'm making him stand up, he is an ETSU grad. He graduated with the spring class last year. I was blessed to be able to keep 2 lieutenants over the course of the summer to help me with recruiting. Lieutenants Fowler and Lieutenant Hafner, one of which we've already shipped out to learn how to be a medical science officer. When I first came on board, and it was Scott Jeffers, even before I got on, said, hey, I got some bad news for you. The major that's supposed to be your recruiting officer just came down on orders, no notice, you're not going to get a backfill for 12 to 18 months. Have fun with that. He didn't quite say it that way. But again, I was lucky enough to have 2 fantastic lieutenants just work incredibly hard this summer. Jeff Fowler, I mean, a testament to how good a job that he did is here we are in the fall with arguably one of the strongest recruiting classes that this program has seen in decades. And it really is because of a lot of the hard work that young man's done back there. And so we're sorry to see you go. I know you're moving on and you're excited about, learning to become a military police officer, but don't be a stranger. We hope to see you back here at home at the Buck Battalion shortly. Thank you. So the secret's a little bit is already out on the Ranger Challenge side of the house. Dr. Garceau, again, was very kind to acknowledge the win of the Ranger Challenge team during the College of Business and Technology side of the house. But if I could have the members of the team that are with us today, if you guys could go ahead and stand up, please. And for the rest of you that unfortunately missed the CBAT Hall of Fame, just to give you some idea of what this means, we sent this team, it was 11 cadets, up to Fort Knox a couple weeks ago to compete against every other ROTC program in Tennessee, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. And we already mentioned there's some powerhouses in there. The commanding general for Cadet Command, Major General Smith, is a Ohio State grad. He was certainly rooting for them. They finished a very distant whatever behind the ETSU team. And then, sir, I know there's someone back there wearing UT orange, but I told the team here as we went out there that if we finish second to last, but UT Knoxville's behind us, it'll be a good day. And so it was incredibly proud moment when these guys, when they announced that East Tennessee State is the brigade champion. this year, and that's earned them a slot to go up to West Point, New York, to compete in the Sandhurst Military Skills Competition. Probably, it's an international competition. So it'll be the top 8 ROTC teams, it'll be teams from all of the U.S. military academies, and then it'll include an international group of teams that come over here to the States to compete. The CG has said, hey, ROTC's never won this event. The best finisher last year was number 13. CG has told us, hey, we'd like 2 teams in the top 10 out of the 8 that we're sending. My military boss, Colonel Knight, said, hey, my expectation is you're number 1. So no pressure, guys. But we are going to go there, and these exceptional young men and women are going to compete very well. And whether we win or not, you can count on them working harder than any other team that shows up. So round of applause for these cadets. Okay, go ahead, take your seats, boys. And if I could have Doyle and Scott come on up here. All right, you are about to see the contracting of 2 of the newest cadets in the United States Army as they are added to the ranks of the Buck Battalion. So I hope you've thought about the speech that you were expected to prepare as part of this. You stand right here. I'm gonna tell you just a little bit about him. Carter Doyle here. Carter, both of these individuals have already taken the first step of military service. And keep in mind that only less than 1% of our population raises their right hand and decides to serve. And these are 2 young men that have already done that. They're both serving National Guardsmen. So Carter Doyle's a Tennessee Guardsman, and we've got Jackson Scott, who's a Virginia Guardsman. And families, can I please have you stand up just very, very briefly for these 2 individuals? If we give them a round of applause, too. I know Carter's parents were unable to be with us today because they're up in the Pittsburgh area, but I know they're very proud of him. So Carter Doyle's a logistics specialist, and he at least told me yesterday he aspires to be an infantryman someday here in a few years. You probably can get some tips from General Harrell. And then Jackson Scott, he's a Virginia Guardsman. Bailey, hey, why don't you go ahead, stand up, Bailey. Bailey, we need to give a bonus, a recruitment bonus to Bailey, because here's how this worked. Bailey's a student here, the fiance here at ETSU. Last year, Jackson Scott was at Liberty?
Yes.
Liberty University, which explains why he's in the Virginia Guard. But smart man that he is, Cadet Scott, beautiful young lady, he decided, hey, ETSU might be a better option. And so thank you very much for allowing us to add Cadet Scott to our ranks. Thank you very much. So you 2, are you ready to take the oath?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Stand right here. Face me. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Carter Doyle Jackson Scott,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
That I will obey the orders
I'll obey the orders
of the President of the United States
of the President of the United States
and the orders of the officers
and the orders of the officers
appointed over me,
appointed over me,
according to regulation
according to regulation
and the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
and the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank God for this. Without Him, none of this would be possible. I'd like to thank my brother for showing up, and my battle buddy since the beginning, Stephen Holtz, and his wife, Paula Holtz. It's been a long time coming. This is my 3rd year trying this. Finally got it on the 3rd try. 3rd time is a charm, I guess. It talks about in Romans 5 how suffering leads to perseverance. Perseverance leads to character, and character leads to hope. And I wouldn't necessarily call this suffering, but there's been some hard times, there's been some heartbreak, and some disappointments to go along with it. And through these times, it's developed perseverance, an attitude of not giving up, and a sticking to it. And through that, I hope that a character has been shown that I'm not going to I will pursue this. This is something I'm going to fight for, and I'm not just a flash in the pan, that I will prove myself again and again. And through that there is hope, that there is that this has not been all in vain. This has been for something meaningful and something tangible. In closing, I'd just like to say that this is not the end. This is a start. This is the cornerstone that I want to build on. And just glory to God. Thank you.
I'd like to give a thank you to my family and to Bailey Folks, my fiance. All of her help, I wouldn't be here without them. They've given their support through it all. And thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Bishop and the rest of ROTC for giving me this opportunity. I'm very excited to begin on this journey to become a United States commissioned officer, and I am willing to fight for it, and I am proud to say that I'm ETSU contracted, and thank you again.
The two newest cadets in the United States Army. And you know what I did forget to mention there, Jackson Scott, his aspirations, at least right now, he two, right? Aviation, and then the one nearest and dearest to me was he mentioned military intelligence. I'm not sure if he said that just because he thought I was still trying to decide whether we were going to contract him or not, but if that was the case, man, it was a brilliant call on your part. Well done. Now, thanks again for your attendance on this very, very special day. If you have time, we have the various cadet team tables set up just outside. We welcome you over to Brooks Hall. Again, we've got a brand new cadet lounge there that they've been working hard on over the course of the summer that looks fantastic. So again, our home is your home. Please share. Please talk to our cadets. The enormous experience that our alumni have is just simply incredible. And if you could share any piece of that with our cadet corps, I would dearly appreciate it, and I know it would serve them well as future officers. Extend an early invitation to our winter commissioning ceremony. That's going to take place on the 14th of December. That'll be in Brown Hall, room 112 at 10, and I'll make sure I get that out again to everyone. But we've got 3 seniors that'll be raising their right hand and putting on their second lieutenant bars this December, and we've got 12 more that'll be pinning on those bars in the spring. So we hope to have a similar fantastic turnout that we have today. And that concludes the formal portion of our ceremony this afternoon. If we could do one last round of applause for our 2012 inductees.